Imagine winning one of golf's biggest prizes and still getting booed. Picture slipping on the legendary green jacket at Augusta. Pros look away, and fans brand you as the most hated man in golf. That's the reality of Patrick Reed. Once hailed as a rising star and Ryder Cup hero, he's now seen by many as the sport's biggest villain. Nicknamed Captain America by some, called golf's bad guy by others, Reed's journey is packed with scandals, rivalries, and controversies that divided the entire sport. How does someone go from being celebrated as a Masters champion to becoming the player everyone loves to hate? Today, we're breaking down exactly how Patrick Reed's story flipped upside down. And trust me, the drama here goes way beyond golf. Stick around until the end, because one scandal in particular is so outrageous, it will leave you completely speechless. Patrick Nathaniel Reed entered this world in San Antonio, Texas in 1990, but it was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where his legend began to take shape. From his earliest days holding a golf club, Reed displayed two qualities that would define his entire career: extraordinary talent and an unshakable belief in that talent. By high school, he wasn't just winning tournaments, he was dominating them. State championships, junior titles, national recognition. But even then, something about Reed rubbed people the wrong way. Perhaps it was the way he carried himself, the confidence that seemed to cross the line into arrogance, the intensity that made other players uncomfortable. Reed didn't just believe he was good, he needed everyone else to know it too. In a sport built on quiet humility and understated excellence, Patrick Reed was already breaking the mold. College should have been his launching pad to greatness. The University of Georgia recruited him as their next star, the player who would lead them back to national prominence. Instead, Reed's time in Georgia became the first chapter in a story that would follow him forever. Within a year, he was gone. The official reasons were murky. Some said academic issues, others whispered about team chemistry problems. But the rumors were darker and more specific. Teammates alleged that Reed had cheated during qualifying rounds. Stories circulated about items going missing from lockers when Reed was around. Small things: cash, a watch, personal belongings. Reed denied these accusations vehemently, but the damage was done. In golf's tight-knit community, reputation travels faster than results. The University of Georgia showed Reed the door, but the questions about his character would never be far behind. What happened next should have been a cautionary tale about second chances. Reed transferred to Augusta State University, a smaller program where he could rebuild both his game and his image. Instead, it became proof that talent could overcome almost any controversy. Reed didn't just contribute to Augusta State, he transformed them. 2 national championships, individual accolades, the kind of college golf success that makes everyone forget why you left your previous school. But forgetting and forgiving are different things entirely. The golf world took note of Reed's accomplishments, but the whispers never stopped. They simply got quieter, waiting for the next opportunity to resurface. As Reed transitioned to professional golf, those close to him noticed something troubling. The young man who had once been surrounded by teammates and coaches was becoming increasingly isolated. The first sign came in the form of a family rift that shocked even those who knew Reed well. Somewhere in his early 20s, Patrick Reed made a decision that would define not just his career, but his entire life. He cut off contact with his parents and sister. The reasons remain largely private, but the consequences were painfully public. When Reed married Justine Carrain in 2012, his family wasn't invited. When he competed in major championships, they watched from afar, if they were allowed to watch at all. The 2014 U.S. Open at Pinehurst became a flashpoint. Reed's parents and sister had obtained tickets through a friend, hoping to support their son in one of golf's biggest moments. Instead, they were escorted off the property at Justine's request. The image was devastating. A young golfer at the peak of his powers, surrounded by security removing his own family from the premises. Golf fans struggled to understand it. In a sport that celebrates family traditions and multi-generational legacies, Reed's situation felt almost alien. Tiger Woods had his father Earl. Phil Mickelson had his grandfather. Patrick Reed had chosen to go it alone, and that choice made him seem not just different, but somehow cold. Yet Reed's golf continued to speak louder than his personal controversies. In 2014, he won the WGC Cadillac Championship, becoming the youngest player ever to capture a World Golf Championship event. Victory should have been the story. Instead, it was overshadowed by what Reed said afterward. Looking directly into the television cameras, Reed declared himself one of the top 5 players in the world. At the time, he was ranked 44th globally. The comment seemed to capture everything that bothered people about Patrick Patrick Reed. The supreme confidence that felt more like delusion, the willingness to make bold statements without the credentials to back them up. But Reed had something that his critics couldn't deny: the ability to perform when it mattered most. Nowhere was this more evident than in Ryder Cup competition, where Reed transformed from golf's divisive figure into America's unlikely hero. The Ryder Cup revealed a different side of Patrick Reed. Away from individual rankings and personal accolades, Reed thrived in the team environment. His matches became must-watch television, filled with fist pumps, crowd interactions, and clutch shots under enormous pressure. Fans began calling him Captain America, and for the first time in his career, Reed wasn't just tolerated, he was celebrated. His 2016 singles match against Rory McIlroy became instant legend. Two players at the top of their games, trading shots and gestures, feeding off each other's intensity. When Reed emerged victorious, even his harshest critics had to acknowledge his competitive fire. In that moment, he wasn't golf's villain, he was golf's gladiator. The Ryder Cup success should have been Reed's pathway to broader acceptance, but golf doesn't forget easily. Every triumph was shadowed by lingering questions about his character. Every celebration felt temporary, as if fans were waiting for the next controversy to remind them why they had reservations about Patrick Reed. That next controversy would come in the form of Reed's greatest triumph, winning the Masters tournament in 2018. Augusta National, golf's most sacred ground, where legends are made and legacies are cemented. Reed held off challenges from Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler to claim his first major championship. The green jacket ceremony should have been pure validation, proof that talent ultimately triumphs over perception. For one shining week, Reed's golf overshadowed everything else. His final round performance was masterful, clutch putting under pressure that few players could handle. The walk up the 18th fairway at Augusta should have been Reed's redemption moment, the image that redefined his career. But even in victory, Reed couldn't escape the shadow of controversy. His family watched the Masters from home, excluded from golf's greatest celebration. The green jacket ceremony felt hollow to some observers, a champion standing alone, surrounded by officials rather than loved ones. Still, Reed had reached the summit, Masters champion, the title that transforms careers and opens doors. For most players, major championship success brings automatic respect, regardless of past controversies. Patrick Reed would soon discover that he wasn't. Most camera angles were misleading, convinced few observers. Officials assessed a two-stroke penalty, but the court of public opinion was far less forgiving. Analyst Brandel Chambly openly called it cheating. Fellow professionals expressed their disappointment publicly. The incident wasn't just about two strokes or one tournament. It was about trust, and Reed had lost it. The accusations stung because they connected to older rumors about Reed's college career. Suddenly, stories about cheating in qualifying rounds and missing items from lockers didn't seem like ancient history. They felt like evidence of a pattern, a character flaw that had followed Reed from amateur golf through his professional career. The 2021 Farmers Insurance Open provided another uncomfortable moment. Reed claimed his ball was embedded in the rough, allowing him to take relief under the rules. The problem was that television footage showed the ball bouncing before coming to rest, which typically indicates it couldn't have been embedded. Officials sided with Reed, but the optics were terrible. For Reed's critics, this wasn't about technical rule violations anymore. It was about a player who consistently found himself in gray areas, always benefiting from close calls, always pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable. Even when Reed followed the letter of the law, he seemed to violate its spirit. By 2022, Reed's reputation had deteriorated to the point where joining LIV Golf felt almost inevitable. The Saudi-backed league offered him not just financial security, but perhaps more importantly, escape from the constant scrutiny of PGA Tour media and fans. But even in leaving, Reed couldn't resist one final confrontation. His $750 million lawsuit against Golf Channel and various analysts represented the ultimate escalation. Reed accused them of conducting a malicious campaign to destroy his reputation and career. For Reed, the lawsuit was about justice and clearing his name. For observers, it looked like a desperate attempt to silence critics through legal intimidation. The lawsuit was eventually dismissed, but it solidified Reed's image as someone who would fight anyone and everyone, rather than examine his own role in the controversies. Instead of rehabilitation, the legal action felt like confirmation that Reed saw himself as a victim rather than a participant in his own downfall. The palm tree incident at the 2023 Dubai Desert Classic became almost a parody of Reed's career-long issues. After hitting an errant tee shot of the doubt, once again Again, fans erupted in frustration. By this point, every questionable call felt like evidence of a deeper problem. Reed's whether he's technically guilty of cheating, the rules officials have generally supported his interpretations. The question is whether golf's unwritten codes of conduct matter, and whether a player can succeed while consistently violating them. Reed supporters point to his undeniable accomplishments: Masters champion, multiple PGA Tour winner, Ryder Cup legend. They argue that his aggressive interpretation of rules is simply smart golf, that other players do similar things but don't face the same scrutiny because they're more likable. His critics contend that reputation matters in golf, that the sport's integrity depends on players policing themselves rather than pushing every boundary. They see Reed's career as a cautionary tale about what happens when talent isn't tempered by respect for the game's traditions. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Patrick Reed is neither golf's ultimate villain nor its misunderstood hero. He's a player whose immense talent was consistently undermined by poor judgment and worse optics, a competitor so focused on winning that he lost sight of how winning should be achieved. Reed's story reveals something uncomfortable about modern professional sports: that talent alone isn't enough, that perception can become reality, and that some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt. He reached the summit of his sport only to discover that standing there alone isn't actually winning at all. The tragedy of Patrick Reed isn't that he was unfairly persecuted, it's that he had every opportunity to be beloved and threw it away. In a sport that rewards humility, he chose arrogance. In a game built on integrity, he found gray areas. In a community that values relationships, he burned bridges. Reed's legacy will be complicated, undeniably talented, perpetually controversial, and ultimately alone. He proved that you can reach the top of professional golf without the respect of your peers or the admiration of fans. Whether that's an achievement or a cautionary tale depends entirely on your perspective. One thing is certain: Patrick Reed changed golf, though probably not in the way he intended. He showed that the sport's gentleman's code still matters, that reputation has consequences, and that some victories come at too high a price. In trying to win at all costs, Reed discovered that some costs are simply too high to pay.